Most people who are burned out don't know they're burned out. Not because they're not paying attention, because the picture they were given of burnout doesn't look anything like what's happening to them. The picture most people carry is a specific one. It's the person who can't get out of bed. The missed deadlines. The visible falling apart. The moment where something finally, publicly breaks. And if you look at that picture and think, that's not me, you're probably right. That's not you. But that doesn't mean you're fine. It might just mean you've been using the wrong picture. This video is about what burnout actually looks like when the performance doesn't stop. When you're still delivering, still showing up, still ahead by every visible metric. And something underneath all of that is very, very quiet in a way it didn't used to be. If that sentence landed somewhere, stay with this. Let's talk about what the standard picture of burnout gets wrong. It assumes burnout makes itself visible. It assumes the body will eventually refuse. That performance will drop, that the cracks will show, that at some point the output will start to tell the truth about what's happening on the inside. For a lot of people, that's not what happens. For a specific kind of person, the high-achieving, high-responsible, high-functioning kind, the output doesn't drop. It holds. Sometimes it even improves. Because here's what nobody talks about. For people who have spent years, decades sometimes, fusing their worth to their performance, the performance becomes the last thing to go. It's not that the work protects them. It's that the work is the only thing they know how to do when everything else stops working. So they keep delivering, they keep hitting the numbers, they keep being the person everyone in the room relies on. And because the output is still there, everyone around them sees competence. And crucially, they see it too. I'm still functioning, so this can't be what it sounds like. That's the trap. Research on burnout consistently finds that it's vastly underreported among high-performing knowledge workers. Not because they experience it less, but because their own performance makes it harder to recognize. The output stays intact long after the interior has started to hollow out, which means the most reliable signal they have, "Am I still doing the work?" stops being reliable. And without that signal, the internal story becomes, "I'm tired, but I'm managing." Other people have it worse. This is probably just what this season of life feels like. And so they keep going. So if it doesn't look like collapse, what does it look like? It looks like finishing something and feeling nothing where a feeling should be. You complete the project, the quarter closes, the goal you've been working toward for months is done. And you sit very still for a moment, and you wait. And there's nothing there. Not relief, not satisfaction, just the immediate gravitational pull of the next thing. That hollowness, right where the reward is supposed to be, that's one of the clearest signals of high-functioning burnout. The brain's reward system, under chronic stress, starts to disconnect the doing from the feeling. You can still execute the task, you just can't feel the completion of it. It also looks like a very specific kind of tired, not the tired that a good night's sleep fixes, not the tired that a long weekend touches. The tired that follows you into the weekend and sits next to you while you're supposed to be resting. The tired that is still there on Monday morning even when Saturday and Sunday were, by any measure, fine. You've probably already noticed this. You've probably already tried to fix it. And the rest didn't hold. That's not a discipline problem. That's what happens when the exhaustion is structural. When what's depleted isn't your energy, but something that rest doesn't reach. It also looks like performing presence. You're in the meeting. You're in the room. You're at dinner with people you love. And you are technically there. But there's a layer of glass somewhere between you and the moment. You can hear the conversation. You can respond correctly, even warmly. But the felt experience of actually being inside your own life, that's not quite landing. You're watching it slightly more than you're living it. Neuropsychology has a name for this. It's called identity fatigue, a state where chronic cognitive overload erodes the felt sense of being yourself. The reasoning stays sharp. The output stays high. But the neural integration between task execution and emotional meaning starts to break down. You can still do the thing. You've just stopped feeling like the person doing it. It also looks like consuming recovery content the same way you consume everything else. Productively. You find the right app, you schedule the journaling, you read the book about slowing down, and you finish it in 3 days and immediately wonder what to read next. The slow-living content gets absorbed into the same system that created the problem in the first place. And that's not a character flaw. That's the pattern eating its own antidote. And then there's the one that's hardest to sit with. It looks like being the person in the room who is also, in every way that matters, not in the room. The child asks you something and you answer from a distance. Your partner says your name and you come back from somewhere and realize you've been gone for a while. You are physically present in your own life in a way that increasingly doesn't feel like presence. That specific distance between being there and actually being there is one of the most reliable signals that something structural is happening. Not a bad week. Not stress that a vacation will fix. Something that has been building for longer than you've been willing to name. Here's the part that makes high-functioning burnout so hard to catch. The thing that's supposed to tell you something is wrong. The drop in output, the visible struggle, the signal that even you can read doesn't come. Because the performance holds, and so the self-assessment keeps coming back the same. I'm still doing the work. I'm still here. I'm still functioning. It can't be that bad. But functioning isn't the same as being well. And here's what that confusion actually costs. Every day spent performing wellness while the interior continues to hollow is a day the gap between the two gets wider. The energy required to maintain the external signal of competence, to keep looking like someone who has it together, to keep delivering at the level that has become the baseline expectation, including your own expectation of yourself, that energy comes from somewhere. And what it comes from is the part of you that was supposed to be available for everything else. The presence, the pleasure, the being actually inside your life instead of managing it from a slight remove. There's also something else that staying hidden does. It delays the naming. And the naming matters. Not because a name changes the circumstances, not because calling it burnout fixes anything logistically, but because without a name, the story you tell yourself is the worst possible one. This is just me. This is who I am now. Maybe this is what I'm like when I'm not performing well enough. Maybe everyone feels this way, and I'm just not handling it as well as they are. That story, the one that locates the problem in your character, is what the wrong picture produces. The right picture produces something different. It says, this is a rational response to something real. The exhaustion that doesn't lift is not a character flaw. The hollowness after achievement is not ingratitude. The emotional distance from your own life is not a failure of love. They are the predictable outputs of a system that has been running without real recovery for longer than it was designed to. And the fact that you've been functioning through all of it, the fact that the output held, that no one saw it, that even you almost didn't see it, that is not evidence that you're fine. That is evidence of what you've been spending. If this video has started to clarify something, if you're beginning to see the shape of what's been happening and want to look at it more precisely, there's a guided workbook in the description called The Real Cost Inventory. It takes about 20 minutes. It's designed to help you see specifically, not generally, what this pattern has cost in your own life. Not to overwhelm, not to perform an audit, just to see it clearly, maybe for the first time. Not another thing to do, something to finally look at. The link is in the description. Naming this doesn't require anything dramatic. It doesn't mean stopping. It doesn't mean announcing something to anyone. It doesn't mean your obligations disappear, or that the mortgage pauses, or that the team suddenly needs less from you. It means something quieter than that. It means the next time you finish something and feel nothing, you don't tell yourself you're broken. You recognize it as a signal. It means the next time the rest doesn't hold, you don't conclude that you simply need more discipline. You understand that rest alone was never going to reach this. It means the next time you notice you've been somewhere else in the middle of a conversation with someone you love, instead of filing it under, "I'm just distracted today," you see it as information about something structural. The internal objection that comes up here, and it's a real one, is, even if I name this correctly, I still can't afford to stop. And that's true for most people in this situation. Most of us are not stopping. The calendar doesn't clear, the responsibilities don't redistribute themselves. But there's a difference, a significant felt difference between running a system you don't understand and running the same system with accurate information about what it's doing to you. One of those keeps the self-blame intact, the other sets it down. And setting it down is not nothing, it's actually where everything else starts. Because the version of you that has been carrying this without language for it, without permission to name it, that version has been spending an enormous amount of energy on the story that something is wrong with them. Updating that story doesn't require the circumstances to change, it just requires the picture to be accurate. And now it is. High-functioning burnout is real, it is specific, it is recognized. It has a shape that looks nothing like the image you were given, and everything like what you've been quietly living. You don't have to prove it. You don't have to wait for the collapse that isn't coming to validate an experience that's already here. If you want to take what's here further, the real cost inventory in the description is where to go next. It's not about doing more. It's about finally seeing what's already there. What was the moment you realized the exhaustion wasn't going away on its own? And what were you doing when it hit you? So here's where this lands. You came to this video with a picture of burnout that didn't fit, the dramatic crash, the visible falling apart, the version that announces itself. And because that picture didn't fit, you did what high-functioning people do with information that doesn't compute. You filed it away. You kept going. You told yourself, "That's not me." I'd know, but the picture was wrong. Not for everyone, but for people like you. For the ones whose performance is the last thing to go. For the ones whose output stays intact while the interior goes quiet. For the ones who have been watching their own life from slightly behind a pane of glass and calling it fine because nothing externally says otherwise. What burnout actually looks like in high-functioning people is not the crash. It's the hollowness that lands where the reward used to be. It's the exhaustion that follows you into the weekend. It's the presence that keeps going missing. It's the performance that continues while the person inside it slowly disappears. And the fact that you've kept it all running, the fact that you held the output, met the deadlines, kept the appearance of fine, is not evidence that you're managing well. It is evidence of what this has cost. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are not someone who should have figured this out earlier, or handled it better, or needed less. You are someone who has been running a very demanding system without accurate information about what it was doing to you. Now you have that information. And information, the right kind, the precise kind, the kind that finally fits the actual shape of your experience, is not nothing. It is, in fact, where it starts. The exhaustion is real, the numbness is real, and so is the version of you that exists on the other side of finally naming it. That version is still recoverable, and you already know something now that you didn't know when you clicked. That's not nothing. That's actually where it starts.